Good morning and welcome to Berlin. It is the 2023 Sabic Berlin E-Prix. Well, the city is ready and we are all set to go. Let's take a look then at how the Drivers' Championship comes in with the calendar as well. Evans then does the double, the same as Verline did in Saudi Arabia as well in rounds 2 and 3. Can we see anything happen today though in race 2? Can Evans take a triple before we head off to Monaco on the 6th of May, Jakarta 3rd and 4th of June, Portland the 24th of June, Rome double header 15th and 16th of July, London at the end as well. In terms of the Drivers' Championship though, it is all eyes on everybody. Bit of rain in the air this morning though when the drivers came in, so everybody a little bit nervous about what could happen. A damp track this morning, not exactly going to be throwing it down, but we'll see the track conditions in a few seconds time before the session gets underway in 3 minutes. But the rain has certainly thrown in an interesting mix as to what could happen. Taking a look also then on the circuit, here's a look then at the Drivers' Championship. Pascal Verline leads on 94 points, Nick Cassidy has 71, 66 for Jean-Eric Verne, 64 for Mitch Evans, 62 for Jake Dennis and Sam Bird. Antonio Felix da Costa has 58, Buemi 57, Rast on 40, Jake Hughes rounds out the top 10 on 32 points. And looking further down the page as well, for P11 onwards, it's a very interesting tale with Lotter at 23, Van Dorn 22, Degrassi 18, Gunther 15, NATO 11, Sete Camera 10, 9 apiece for Roland and Tictum, 7 for Fenestras, 5 for Mortara. Still no points there for App Cooper with Muller and Freins. As you look on downtown Berlin as well, this is the constructors' standings. Porsche lead the way, 152 points to Envision and 128. They're too clear of Jaguar, 126. Penske have 88, Andretti 85, McLaren 72. Then Mahindra massive back, 27. Maserati on 20, Neo 19, Nissan 18 as well. No points for App Cooper. Same track then as yesterday for round 8 here in Berlin. And there's the TV tower, 368 metres above the sea level. And here's the track, 2.355 kilometres, 10 turns in total. Same layout, which means we only have one practice session this morning to keep up with as well. But it is a fantastic circuit to race around here on the Berlin Tempelhof Airport. Attack mode's down at turn 6, then 2 hairpins end the lap at 9 and into 10 as well. That's a lap though of the Berlin Tempelhof Airport. Let's cross over then on a damp morning to listen to Jack Nicholls and see what he has to say.
So, by the looks of things, but you'll see when the cars go out that there you can see that there are puddles around. Track temperature's 13 degrees, air temperature 14 degrees, some drops of water on the lens as well, but the session gets underway now. Green flag at the end of the pit lane, and we'll see whether everyone heads straight out or whether they decide to give it a little bit of time or not. You can see the TV tower, which is at Alexander.
Yes. Yes, good morning everybody. Welcome to live coverage of Practice 3 here from the Berlin E-Prix. It's technically a live highlight show as well. It's going to be the same format, so Jack Nicholls and Alan McNish will talk you through the most of it. I'll talk you through some of it. The reason this is live, this session, is because there's so much on today, we don't actually have enough time to edit the highlights, so live is always better. One of the McLarens has stopped though, coming out of turn 4 and has brought out the yellow flags already. It looks like Rene Rast, according to Jack Nicholls, but the track is damp out here on the concrete. We've never had a wet Berlin E-Prix before, and it is Rene Rast who has come to a stop at the exit of turn 3. So whether or not they have to throw the red flag already, it's going to be a question we have to ask ourselves. We'll keep you updated with the timing screen if it goes red or not. But the track is damp. There's a lot of puddles out there on the circuit. So once again, a lot of interest whether or not qualifying the race itself will be wet. The conditions different from yesterday once again.
There's definitely some some water down there as they come through the hairpin.
Oh, there's a bit of spray coming off the tyres. That's what they're designed to do, is to evacuate water, to lift it up and throw it up into the air, which means that you're not aquaplaning effectively. And so circuit's easily capable of driving, no big puddles.
Hey, all team managers from Race Control, just be aware that we still have a car drivers left at effectively the apex of turn 3 off to the side. Obey the flags, please.
Rene Rast is doing a full power reset to then try and get the car going again. You can see the McLaren there on the left-hand side as his teammate comes past him. 28 minutes remaining in this half-hour session. So a power cycle so often resets the problems, doesn't it? It's quite surprising.
Yeah, Control-Alt-Delete in old language, and it's basically re-baselines all the electronics, and these cars have got a significant amount of electronics in them to run even things like the braking system and the distribution of the brakes from the front to the rear. It's all brake-by-wire. So here we are, we're ready. It's all ready from going out the pits, basically.
Yeah, it's just died off there already coming out of the pit lane as Alan McNish says.
Touched the throttle, but it was nothing of real significance.
So Jake Hughes fighting with the car already as he comes down into the hairpin of turn 9.
Cassidy.
At the inside of him goes the Envision of Nick Cassidy.
But the McLaren struggled yesterday with traction. If we remember back even in the dry, it just didn't seem to get the power down very well. Now that can be one of two things. It can be actually the mechanical grip, or it can be the way that the throttle application is, so that it basically puts all of the power in a very aggressive way instead of a very smooth way. And right now with these low grip conditions, you'll want something that is nice and gentle when you're pressing the throttle, but it doesn't come in with a bang.
And how much can you change that sort of regulation-wise? Because if it's like, I haven't really looked at the forecast of the day, but let's say hypothetically it could be dry later. Are there things you can change in between now and then, or when you end up in Parc Fermé?
No, there's points when you can change. So you've got one software version that you can put in every race. So you develop software through the season, but you've got to homologate a version per event. And so in that respect, however, there is some very small things that you can do to try to maybe, I would say, massage and smooth it. But as a general principle, you do want a very linear throttle application in these sort of conditions, so the driver knows exactly when he presses that little bit more, exactly what he gets.
Nick Cassidy, 5th yesterday in the Envision, was involved in the scrap at the front for quite a while, as was everybody really, and he's now coming up into the final corner. Oh, he's knocked the left front there, and he's gone in a little deep, gets it back and heads back down the start-finish straight.
You know, these conditions seem to be a leveler in a lot of occasions, and I'd just like to point everybody to who's quickest. Yes. Robin Frins in the Apt Cupra. Now Robin just drives by the seat of his pants, fantastic natural talent, and if there is ever a condition that is perfect for him, it's this. It's new for everybody, the circuit's wet, it's slippery, the tyres are not quite up to temperature, and he's able just to sort of get it thrown around there, and quickest. I'm sure they'll be taking pictures of the timing screens and hoping that that's what it stays like for later in the day.
Sam Bird is frustrated with that yellow flag still being out at turn 3 because Rast's car is still there, and because they're having to back off every lap still. Apt 1-2 at the moment, and now there is a red flag.
Yep, as Jack says, red flag. Session is stopped there, and they've had to throw the red because Rene Rast's car has been stuck there for the past 6 minutes, and there's nothing they could do. Session suspended then. All cars will return to the pit lane, and Rene Rast will have no practice at all in these wet conditions here at the Berlin Tempelhof Airport. Ticktum's already back in the pit lane as well. But that's it. Red flag, session stop with 24 minutes to go. They might extend the session, but at the moment this could be it because everyone had the same action yesterday. Let's hear from Rast.
Okay, so yeah, obviously we're not sure at the moment, so stand by, but we're going to need to be recovered and not try and drive any further.
Stephen Lane on the radio. There must have just come past. Who's that? Just come past the
Mortara.
It was Edo Mortara. I think it must have been in the Maserati. Felt like he should have been going into the pits by then, but maybe he had just come past the timing line. The marshal's heading out to recover Rast's car. We may get a session extension. Depends how long the recovery takes, although actually it's able to move, so it looks like we should be able to roll him out quite quickly. So listen to him here leaving the pit lane. And there it goes.
Dies immediately up to power, yeah.
That sort of oscillation, and you could hear the noise rising up very gently, and then it had a small cut for a tenth of a second, and then never seemed to recover from there. So that's an electronic issue. I would suggest throttle or something like that.
Rast was involved in that shunt yesterday with Van Dorn and Tictum, so not sure how much they've changed the car overnight, because Stoffel Van Dorn, for example, has had the complete tub change after yesterday, so it could be when they rebuilt Rast's car, something hasn't quite gone according to plan. It's Cassidy, the man who is now second in the championship standings. Mitch Evans, the race winner yesterday in the Jaguar, the only driver to have started every race in the top 10 so far this season, Mitch Evans, and he has the best qualifying average of anyone on the grid, which is 5th.
He's always had a very strong qualifying record, even when maybe the race performance wasn't quite there. He was always quick in qualifying.
Tough day yesterday for Jake Dennis. It looked as though he was in the fight for the win, honestly, but got frustrated behind the Maseratis and ended up in the barrier. Yeah,
and then had that incident and has got a 5-place grid penalty, resulting in taking out Antonio Felix da Costa in the incident when he went off. So it's been a tough day, tough weekend, but a tough, I would say, middle part to the season for them as well after a sterling start. They just need to have, as he said actually on Thursday, a clean weekend.
Yeah.
A little bit harder to do than actually you can imagine.
And I think that for Dennis, there's every driver's got their sort of bad luck stories, as it were. Da Costa, one of them yesterday, to be honest, getting wiped out by Dennis, but he could have had huge results in Hyderabad and, well, not so much Cape Town, but also Sao Paulo. Sebastian Buemi now makes his way out onto the circuit. No podiums yet for Buemi this season. He's finished in the points in all but one race. 5th, 4th, he's had 2 4th-place finishes, 2 pole positions. Hasn't quite been able to convert it to the podium. Even yesterday, missing out on the podium.
At the line.
Well, at the line, yeah, exactly.
Looked like he was going to sneak past Gunter coming out in the final corner, but didn't quite make it. Very, very close. But it was still a good weekend for Envision yesterday, because they picked up good points with both cars. Had Cassidy leapfrog to second in the championship, as you said, and that pulls him a little bit closer to ultimately Pascal Wehrlein, who I think that also, like Antonio Felix da Costa until the incident, had a fantastic recovery.
Yeah, very good job yesterday from Wehrlein, as we've seen so many times this season. Cassidy still waiting in the pit lane. Quite a few still in the pit lane. Freitz and Muller, Nato, Van Dorn, Cassidy, Evans, De Grassi and Hughes. The rest of the drivers out on circuit, so a bit of a split on whether to go out on track or not, which is quite interesting with 20 minutes to go and new track conditions. Max Gunter scored more points yesterday than he had in his previous 23 Formula E races. 15 yesterday, picked up 10 in the previous 23.
That's a statistic.
Yeah.
Quite a shocking statistic, actually, for the previous races, but definitely a statistic. As you see, just turning in so aggressively to try and get some temperature. The other thing to note is that pretty much all the drivers, especially out of the last corner, I noticed, taking very, very different lines to they would normally in the dry. And so you can take what historically has been known as the karting line, which is round the outside or doing a big cutback, but in corners like here, turn 7, then they have to take the traditional racing lines. There's just not enough room.
On board with Gunter, who became the first driver to take the Maserati name to the podium in 66 years. Last time a Maserati was on the podium was Juan Manuel Fangio at the German Grand Prix in 1957. In terms of single-seater, you know, world championship podiums. Gunther making his way around the circuit, coming out over the start-finish line, and then down towards turn 1. And of course, you can keep up with all the action today on the Formula E app, or head to fiaformulae.com/live, and you can follow all of today's action unfolding, as well as obviously being here with us. Sasha Fenestraz in the Nissan. What happened to him yesterday, Fenestraz? I think he just didn't qualify very well and then didn't really do anything in the race.
Yeah, he was sort of mid-pack. He was always on the back end of the pack that was fighting into the top 10. And so it was not necessarily a great weekend for all the Nissan powertrains, because the two McLarens have that powertrain as well. And Jake Hughes had a bit of a struggle, and so did Rennie Rasmussen.
I should clarify, I think that Maserati stat is single-seaters.
Yeah.
Single-seaters.
Yeah, I can imagine.
17 minutes and 40 seconds to go. Fright's still quickest at the moment, and 3/10 ahead of Oliver Rowland.
Just to give you a feel, that's about 10 seconds per lap slower than they were in the race yesterday.
Out across the line comes Sasha Fenestraz. Lotterer is quickest at the moment. Fenestraz goes up into 11th spot as they come down in towards turn 1. There is the Nissan garage. He's the only one there at the moment. Where's everybody else?
I can't tell you.
They don't rock up for FP1. Bit deep for Evans there.
Yeah, but it looks like a couple of lines here. You can go completely round the outside, or you can do a very, very late cutback and then effectively drive down the inside. But the important...
Got a yellow at turn 1, so that's where Evans is on the circuit right now. I can't see anything. And we've gone back to green flag, so I'll hand back over to the guys.
This is your first one in Formula E.
Yeah.
So I am going to be thinking...
For how long are you doing?
Quite a long time. Yeah, because they didn't have a 1-2 in Formula 1, because they didn't win a Grand Prix in Formula 1.
No.
So therefore, you would probably go back to sports cars, and you'd be talking Tom Wilkinshaw racing in the early 90s, Martin Brundle, Derek Warwick.
1991, the 430 kilometres of Nürburgring. It was Warwick and David Brabham won with Theo Fabi and David Brabham in the second car. Was Brabham in both cars?
I think you could do that at that time.
Really?
Switch cars. Yeah.
The two Jaguars finished 6 laps ahead of the third place Porsche. So there you go. First 1-2 for Jaguar in, how many years is that? 32 years. 15 and a half minutes to go. Here are the Jaguars. That's why I was talking about them, obviously, because we're looking at them. And they won the race yesterday, 1-2. Evans across the line. It's amazing when you get these suddenly with slippery conditions, and then actually everyone's still separated by 0.4 of a second.
Yeah. And it's a very, I would say, tight grid all the way through, and that's one of the things that we like about it. If you get it right, you're at the front, and if you don't get it right, you can be easily at the back.
Apparently, that same weekend of the Jaguar 1-2.
Just be aware, pit exit's only closed because we're moving the McLaren opposite direction. It'll go green again in just 2 seconds.
So they've got closed pit exit at the moment to move the McLaren down it. But yeah, apparently that weekend when Jaguar got their 1-2, you were racing in a Dams Lola T9150 at Brands Hatch.
Not for very long. The input shaft broke in the second lap, if I remember correctly.
Thank you to Sam Smith from the race for providing that particular piece of information. Here comes Bird, down into the hairpin of turn 9. 2 points now behind his teammate as they try and climb their way up the championship. The final corner at turn 10. Over the start-finish straight. France is back to being quickest on a 17.115. Bird up into second. Lotterer third, Dennis fourth, Rowland fifth, Muller.
Muller's on a quick one as well. He's just on the fastest middle sector. Circuit's going to be drying up a little bit, but I think more importantly than that, the drivers are really finding their way around it, and also keeping some temperature into the tyre, gaining a little bit of confidence, knowing where they can push and where they can't push. As Nico Müller
happy with
puts
the
himself.
pace. I'm happy with the pace. That's the fastest.
Phil Ingram's happy with the pace. Rain today is meant to decrease as the afternoon sort of goes on. We're at high percentage chance of rain at the moment, but once we get to sort of 10, 11 o'clock, it really starts to drop off. So I think we're probably in for a dry race. Today, says a camera having a twitch on the way into turn 7.
Yeah, but even though they say a dry race, once it has dried up, the circuit will be in quite different conditions to what it was in the race yesterday. It'll be a little bit more like it was in free practice 2, for example.
These Hankooks don't rubber in quite as much as the Michelins used to, so they sort of leave less rubber on the circuit than the Michelins did. By nature of being harder, really. And here is Robin Freitz then, who's having a fun time this afternoon. Oh, this morning, I should say. It's only 8:30. But he's done the fastest first sector of anybody, making his recovery and return after missing 4 races, having broken his hand, wrist, all sorts in his hand after a crash in Mexico. And he's 4 tenths up after the middle sector.
I'm sure that Thomas Biermeier, being well, local in some respects, ordered this rain for today and just hoping that it continues with this performance. So it's not just Robin, but it's also Nico Müller who's up there as well.
Into the final corner comes Freitz. His first formulary victory came in the rain in Paris in season 5. And here he comes, out across the line, and he goes fastest. A 1:16.794, which will just be a nice feeling, I thought, for the app team. Don't they look thrilled? Roger Griffiths with Lotterer second and Dennis 5th. Here is Andre Lotterer, Jake Dennis coming into turn 1. A 5-place grid drop for him, as we mentioned earlier today. But a good quali, and three of the last 6 races have been won by drivers who didn't make it into the duels.
Yeah, shows you the sort of crazy race it was yesterday. I still, when I watched it back, I still struggled to actually follow what was going on because there was so much action, so many lead changes, everybody trying to let someone else through, but that just created so many opportunities and people coming through that were out of position as well. Yeah. I think we've got to say that because we talked about Antonio Felix da Costa, 19th in the break wasn't where we expected him to be. And so therefore it was definitely a case of people like him and Mitch Evans coming through from a slightly less correct position on the grid.
Yeah. Here comes Dennis then, up to the final corner of time 10. His middle sector is a personal best, so he might find a bit of a chunk of time here. Maybe get up into 3rd position. Here he comes, he does. 3 tenths away from Robin Freitz. Lotterer 2nd, Dennis 3rd. Bird 4th, Müller 5th. And Roland Evans 6th and 7th. Sam Bird reporting on the radio that the track is definitely getting drier. Here's the other Andretti of Andre Lotterer. He got some points yesterday with a 8th place finish, yeah.
He had a 5-second penalty for an incident where he spun around Vernon.
So let's enjoy this driving from Lotterer into turn 7.
That's a quick corner to be going through without any grip.
Yeah. 7 tenths down after the middle sector. Which,
just braking there as it was trying to recuperate some energy.
Now towards the final turn. Would you do race running in this session? What would your sort of strategy be? Is it relevant to do race running?
It's relevant to try to get some mapping for your regeneration in the wet. And to make sure it's smooth enough and you don't get the lockups like we saw Andre coming into turn 9 there when it oversteered as he started to brake. It's not necessarily that relevant in other areas. I think the more important thing is working out what you need from the tyre to be able to make it work, what you need to do to the car if there's anything with the pressures, especially with the pressures in reality.
So this is a camera heading back out onto the circuit. What would you normally do with the pressures if it's raining?
Push them up a little bit, you can do, but if you maybe need to do it more on the front than the rear, you wouldn't necessarily just push them all together at the same point, and you can play with them to try to get a balance of the car for warm-up and also for a little bit longer. However, it's all relative to what the weather forecast is. If the weather forecast was consistently going to be like this, then you would do maybe a little bit more intensively into one area or another. If it's drying up, as we fully expect, it's going to be slow to dry up though, because it's quite cold. It's only 14 degrees, and that means that it doesn't evaporate very quickly. Then you would obviously do a slightly different program.
Well, it is the sort of weather, isn't it, where certainly qualifying, I can't see it fully drying up for qualifying in an hour, 2 hours.
And remember, we're talking about concrete here and not Dan Tinctum does what Dan Tinctum does. Oh, well, that wasn't expected, but a fantastic recovery.
I think he kept it out the wall, didn't he? Wait, one way, the other way. Oh no, he did nudge it a little.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any damage. It's just kissed the wall. I'm sure that's going to be on social media very soon.
With lots of mean comments underneath, I would imagine.
Yeah, but certainly not from that particular part of driving.
No, exactly.
I have to say the Neo though has got zero grip. When you see it going around, it's just got nothing at all. Yeah, that looks fantastic.
He's messing around here, isn't he?
Yeah, he's coming into the pits now. It does look superb, however, it's not quick at all.
There is Dennis back in the pit lane then. He, Tinctum and Hughes are the three drivers in the pit. So Hughes has done normal running. He's not in the pits because of a rast issue. He's done regular running, although he's a long way up the pace. He's 2 seconds slower than Robin Freitz. Here's Jean-Eric Verne. Field spread, as you can see, fairly big. 1.7 seconds from Freitz down to Fenestraz in 20th spot. The two Maserati MSGs a little off the pace. And Verne is the quickest of those 4 cars.
6 laps only. We have about 4 to 5 laps. Just explore lines, especially back to some dry lines and some corners if needed.
So yeah, you got 4 or 5 laps. Just push and explore. And see when he turns the wheel, the car just doesn't turn at all.
I think they've switched tyres.
Okay.
And so those will be cool tyres.
Yeah, he's 1.8 seconds off. And presumably it's harder to get temperature into the tyres in these conditions.
Yes, much harder. Much harder, because it's the same tyre that runs in the heat of the day or in New York in a few months' time. And so from that perspective, it is definitely much harder to get the temperature into the tyre. Even though we've been talking all yesterday about how it's such an abrasive circuit, it does help.
Yeah.
However, it does take a little bit of time.
So very new conditions for these Formula E drivers. Not driven these cars in the wet before. Here's the other DS Penske of Stoffel van Dorn, the reigning champion.
Yellow at turn 1. Somebody's had a little bit of a run wide there.
Going again now though. Van Dorn at turn 6. He's up behind Sergio Sede-Camera in the Neo, who has so many twitches.
But that area coming out of 6 into 7, Jack, as they're trying to get onto the power, looks to be very slippery.
Of course, most of them will just be running at 300 kilowatts of power at the moment, but in qualifying, if it's still this sort of greasy and you turn it up to 350, it's going to be even harder to get the power down. Van Dorn just backing off to give himself a bit of space, I think. Muller goes to the top of the times. And Cooper is flying in these greasy conditions.
It looks to be compliant, because we're talking about the Neo and watching Dan Tinctum, but I also was watching Sede-Camera. As soon as it hits a bump or anything to unsettle it, the Neo's very unstable. Whereas when we were watching Robin Frins, it looked like he was out for a Sunday morning drive to go and get a baguette or something, but he was just nice and slow and smooth, and that gives confidence, and the confidence is what allows you to push.
Here's Mortara in the Maserati MSG. Again, they are 18th and 19th fastest at the moment. Through turns 4 and 5. Through the first sector, he's half a second away from Muller in sector 1 alone.
Yeah, that's a grip sector at the end of the day.
Towards turn 7. Oh. came through the order brilliantly yesterday, Mortara. Went from 11th to, I think he led at one point.
Yes, he did. He did. When others took the attack mode, and he used a lot of energy to do it.
Yeah.
But Gunther also had used quite a lot of energy, but managed to recover it towards the end of the race. So they did a good job to get themselves back on track.
Personal best in the middle sector. Buemi's on a quick lap, as is Freitz in the final corner. So just in the camera, just up ahead. As Mortara drives to the line. And what's this going to be for Edo? He remains in 20th place.
Right, Sebastian Buemi's going to leap towards the front, I would suggest.
James Rossiter in the middle, Jeremy Colanston on the right-hand side. Here's the other Maserati MSG of Max Gunther, second quickest for Buemi, so lost a bit of time in the final sector. 3 minutes remaining in the session. Here is the act of Nico Müller, who's fastest at the moment, and he's 600ths up in sector 1. We'll see how he's doing after the middle sector here. He's, again, still 600ths up. He's never quite come together for Müller in Formula E. He had that one podium finish in that wild Valencia race a couple of years ago. Here he comes now in the act car through the final turn and out across the line. Evans has now gone quickest at 1 minute 16.376. What does Müller do? He goes back to the top. 1 minute 16.355. How can it be such a dramatic leveler for athletes? Do you know what I mean? Like it's one thing to be like a bit better, but suddenly they're first and third in the times.
Yeah, and also it's not that it's just the card as well, because you've got Roland and Degrassi down in 13th and 15th, a second slower. And it's not a power mode thing. I think there's two things. One is that the car is clearly compliant to drive, and so they've got it in a mechanical setup that's allowing them to extract the most out of it. And the second one is that I'm a big fan of Robin Frins and the Müller in these conditions. I said at the beginning when Robin popped himself to the front that he should be there, and Nico, I think, is exactly that same sort of mold.
It's no secret that I'm the founding member of the Robin Frins fan club as well, so I don't disagree. He's there in third place at the moment. Müller quickest. There are the two divisions coming through. Running nose to tail. Buemi, a good first sector, 2/10 quicker than anybody else, but Müller is finding more time in the middle sector too. Freitz is improving in sector 1 also. Into turn 6 they come.
I think it's about going to be who's the last one over the line of this sort of top group of who ends up fastest. Because with 52 seconds to go, there's going to be one more lap for Buemi and Cassidy after this one. You can see just that if you look at the rear left tire, so our right as we're looking at it, it's completely dry now. There's no spray coming off it, a little bit of dampness just going onto it, and it went like a small sheen for about 1/10 of a second, but the circuit is pretty dry.
So 30 seconds to go then in this practice session. Buemi crosses the line with Cassidy just behind him. Buemi doesn't improve. It goes actually 3/10 down. Cassidy, on the other hand, goes up into 4th position. That moves him out of order in this third practice session. Qualifying live at 9:30 as well. The YouTube streams are going to be set up shortly as well. Jess joining me in the box once again today, and then we've got the 3 British touring car races for you coming up today. Checker flag is out as well, and Evans looks like he's crabbing a bit towards the line, but goes fastest in the Jaguar. Yesterday's race winner is top 1:15.955. Gunther goes 11th across the line as well. Muller second. Freins will be third, so Ab Cooper, no! Tinctum goes second. So Muller and Freins 3 and 4 at the moment, but there's more time to be found out there. Loads of cars now competing faster times. Red sector times coming up on our Delta screen as well with purple, purple, purple. Buemi coming in. Now is he going to take the checkered flag with Cassidy? Yep. Buemi's up in 1st and 2nd sector. He is personal best and fastest overall. Someone else just taking the 2nd sector. Buemi goes 4th. 0.395 down though. Cassidy doesn't improve. Anybody else moving? Lottua still out there. He's to the line now in the Andretti. Dennis goes 8th. Lottua's there too. Let's have a look across line with Hughes. Got a yellow flag. at turns 10. So that's the last two corners. I wonder what's happened there. Gone green. Lotterer to second to complete the running order in this practice session. And now the drivers get ready for their practice start procedure. That's why the yellow flags are out, to let everybody know that they're doing practice starts as well. So Rene Rast is last in the McLaren, as well as Hughes in 21st place. But Mitch Evans tops the session as Sam Bird prepares to do a practice start procedure. And away he goes on the practice as well. So let's go through the results then. It's Mitch Evans fastest by 76 thousandths of a second, as all 5 lights are on, and away we go. So it's Evans, Lotterer, Tincton top 3, Muller, Buemi, Frieds, Cassidy, Dennis, Acosta, Verne the top 10, Nato, Bird, Gunther, Verline, Roland, Degrassi, Mortara, Van Dorn, Fenestras, Sete Camera, Hughes 21st, and Rast not completing a time in the session. Yellow flags then out of the circuit, returning to Jack Nicholls and Alan McNish.
So I would suggest we're not going to get down to that pace, even if over the next, 2 hours, isn't it, till qualifying. It's still not going to completely dry up. I wouldn't have thought. You can see how damp it is up to the right-hand side. Here's a start with Tincton. It's quite smooth, that.
It was. The initial acceleration had some wheel spin, but after that it was relatively smooth.
This is what happened to Buemi. Going down into turn 9, working inside, and then walked by Van Dorn, and then majorly so on the exit also. Van Dorn obviously got
No, Van Dorn was just slower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buemi was catching him very, very quickly. Van Dorn was totally in the right to drive where he drove.
So Van Filippi. And then Mike Lugg on the right-hand side, and Vision finishing that session 5th and 7th for Buemi and Cassidy. Practice start. Did Rast get back out? No, Rast didn't get back out. So that'll be a tough one for him, getting thrown in at the deep end a little with no experience of the damp track.
Yeah, but the circuit, even though it may not be fully dry, will be significantly different by the time we get to the next session in qualifying.
So Mitch Evans, who won yesterday, 1-2 for Jaguar, up to 4th in the championship standings. And he has carried on where he left off, really. Fastest in free practice 3, a 1 minute 15.955. 800ths quicker than Andre Lotterer. Quarter of a second back to Dan Tincton in 3rd. Then the 2 Swiss, Nico Muller and Sebastian Buemi in 4th and 5th spots, with Robin Friends in 6th. Great session that for Cupra. They will be hoping that maybe a little more drizzle, before the end of before the qualifying session anyway. Cassidy, Dennis, DaCosta and Verne, the rest of the top 10. Again, slightly concerning pace potentially for Pascal Wehrlein, the championship leader. We've seen he's able to come through the field though. Degrassi 16th fastest, Van Dorn in the DS Penske down in 18th position, and the 2 McLarens 21st for Jake Hughes and Rene Rast setting a time. He drove out of the pit lane and broke down. They wheeled him back into the pit lane, but they couldn't get him going again before the end of the session. So, a couple of hours now until qualifying. Sebastian Buemi getting pushed back into the garage. But let's go and catch up with a man who is no doubt very happy after yesterday. The team principal of the Jaguar TCS Racing team is talking to us on the CB.
So, James Barkley, a dream day for the team yesterday, and it started pretty well today as well.
Yeah, honestly, 1-2 yesterday is something we've all been working incredibly hard for a long time now, so it's a historic moment. First since 1991, I think we said, at the Nürburgring, so that's pretty phenomenal. Yeah, really, really proud. Those days are few and far between, but it's what we've all been pushing towards. The race was incredible. It was one of those scenarios you didn't quite know if you were going to be able to execute your strategy, but it came together perfectly, and the drivers, the team, everyone just did their job perfectly. But today, yeah, completely different day. Look at it, it's literally, you couldn't get more different, but it's nice for Mitch to be able to back that up with the fastest in the session here today.
might not be necessarily representative for the rest of the day in terms of wet, dry running, but crucial data now. We've had an actual wetter session on these new tyres.
Yeah, it has been, because it's been a voyage of discovery, to be honest. We haven't had a lot of wet running. We had a bit in Valencia. So to be honest, yes, it's been just understanding what we think we need to do with the car. We learned a bit from that session. It seemed to work as well. So yes, and you just got to build confidence. It's so easy to make a mistake in those conditions. So I'm glad that one is over. We've got some good data to work on, and we can take it from there.
What was the word from Sam and Mitch and how the tyres were performing in the wet?
I think the key thing is just honestly building confidence. There's not a lot of grip out there, so it's just really about building the confidence as well as kind of bringing the temperature into the tyre.
Thanks very much, James. Cheers.
So that is the conclusion to this practice session here in Berlin, where we will be back at 9:30 British Summer Time, so about 1 hour to 25 minutes or so. Join us then. From us all here, thanks for your company. Bye-bye.